Episode 237, the early reaction to early results episode. It's here. The regular season's rolling. Players are out, and we are going to tell you who you should put in. It's time for Dingers.
This is Dingers, way more than fantasy baseball. We keep it real when we talk and knock it straight out the park. Let's see the stats. What's the average draft position? What kind of plays you making? Check the wins above replacement. Check the lineups and the points. This I gotta see. What's your path to victory? Are they aiming for a dynasty? Get points going head to head. Please don't do me no favors. We're always watching waivers. Ain't no minor league. This is major. Yeah, Dingers. Let's go.
Welcome to Dingers, the only fantasy baseball podcast for smart people. It's not just Jesus Aguilar that wins you championships. That's why week in and week out, we're delivering tips and strategies to help you live that straight up OG lifestyle. Tyler Child's joined, as always, by Robert Baseball. How we doing, Robbie?
Good. Is Aguilar doing well right now?
No.
Like well enough to mention? Oh, okay.
No, he was on my screen and, show a little love.
No.
256, got a bomb, 12 strikeouts in 43 at bats. So, is what it is.
First
classic Aguilar 670 OPS. Sorry.
Opening weekend, I made a massive trade in a points league where I made like several moves, but amongst them, I acquired Juan Soto in a contracts league, 30-team contracts league, where I already have Ohtani at 73 million of my 233, and I acquired Soto at 52 million. But I had to shed some salary, and Aguilar was one of the guys I shed. And I kind of needed a first baseman when I did it. Then I was like, I'll just let him go. So, and then in my mind, I'm like, watch him finish top 10 now. Like just something stupid happens. And, Soto gets hurt at 50 million and Aguilar at 7 ends up, getting more points. But okay, good. He didn't. So, but there's been a lot of stress, Ty. We're two weeks through into the third fantasy week. Oh man, so many things have happened that we get to, get through tonight. But I don't know how far we want to go without getting our lips wet. Is that the right word?
A long time ago, someone decided to put stuff in glass bottles. In some of these bottles, they put juice or milk, and that was stupid. Today, only alcohol and a few other products remain in the containers from the gods. It's time for beers and bourbon, because good advice only comes in a bottle.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm going Sans alcohol tonight.
Lucky for you, I'm going 2 types of alcohol and a funnel.
Until about an hour ago, when I, cleared my stomach of fluids into the toilet, I was not feeling great. So we're on a bit of the rebound here.
Oops. Oh, well, just spilled that all over.
Smooth operator.
Oh, damn it. It's still foaming.
Oh man. For those of you that are watching on the YouTube channel, sorry. Disaster here.
That was a pretty big mess.
So in the Surf League, Robbie, I think it's interesting. I have been trying for weeks to get rid of Kevin Biggio off my roster, and I just cannot successfully get a claim through on Fab to get rid of him. And the same goes for Jesus Sanchez. Everyone, and I'm not even joking, I've had 4 and 5 waiver claims for each of them over the past couple weeks, and they just keep surviving. And I don't know if it's like a thing of fate and I should just hold them now. Right? It's just you know what I mean? Do I play the superstitious side of this and just
I fully know what you mean.
There?
I just lost after trying every week. Just lost Nolan Jones. Took him off my roster. I was like, I don't care. He's raking at AAA, which we'll talk about later. I don't care about that. My plan with the Surf League was to have flexibility within the outfield, kind of cement my infield, and then see what happens. Well, so of course, Verlander and Robbie Ray get hurt right away. So pitching out the window. Everybody I thought that was going to be getting closes. Brandon Hughes with the Cubs. He's hurt, only just came back now. So we'll see what happens because I dropped him and then just picked him up again. But Graveman, not a peep with the White Sox. So I'm not having any luck here. Zach Johnson with Oakland, all those next man up scenarios that I was hoping for, none of them worked out this year. Last year I had a few of them. So anyway, I get you. And Jason Hayward is currently my outfielder I can't drop right now. I picked him up for $1, and then I'm trying to drop him. And everyone I tried to claim last week, I got outbid on. So he'll be the first guy I'm looking to chop this week. But it looks like I'm going to have Gallo back. So that'll be good. And for everybody out there who's like, Joey Gallo only does one thing, blah, 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 blah. No. Joey Gallo only did one thing for a long period of time. He has the ability to, put the ball in play if he wants to. But I don't know if he's at the point yet where he's going to do that. Maybe from this injury, he won't have all that Gallo power, and we might see a few more balls stay in the park. That'd be cool too. I'd trade 15 home runs if it got me 40 more Gallo points in average, because he's still going to drive everybody in. He's hitting the ball so damn hard. It'll just trade the homers for doubles. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, there's some interesting ones. I mean, my pitching's a little different than when normally would build my pitching. I got a little less strikeouts than I'm happy with, so I've been seeking some of that in the waivers. And honestly, the guys that have been up for it, I just Taj Bradley's a guy that I would love to pay for if he was on a different team. I don't trust Tampa Bay to give innings worth the spend to get somebody like that. That's kind of the only guy that I really would have jumped at on the pitching side. I think there's been some overspends early on some pitching, but that seems to be the fab trend.
Yeah, one of the things that was hot a couple of weeks, well, I guess it wasn't a couple of weeks ago, but anyway, 2 weeks ago, was Chris Bubik. Oh, as he finally got it together. I mean, we've gone in depth on this podcast several times, me dying on the Bubik hill, talking about the fact that maybe there was a Sal Perez issue in 2020, or maybe that was 2021, where he may not have been the ideal guy catching, which sounds terrible to say that about a guy like Perez, but it just seemed like that was the case. Every time Bubik got to 3-0, he walked the guy. I think it was like 13 times you had looked into it. And it, all of a sudden he has one good start, and everyone's like, oh, he's got it together. He's locked in. And I was kind of chuckling like, no, he's Chris Bubik. He's on a team that's, trying really hard to not win games this year yet again. Although they've got, good players, they didn't go out this offseason and acquire anybody. And then unfortunately he gets hurt, but it's one of those, of course his next start's not a great one. Yeah, sure. They're going to put it off to him being hurt, but I don't think that's really the case. It's one of those things where there's some guys who have had good starts and some guys who have had bad starts, and it's really easy to jump on them. Kopech is a prime example of a guy with a bad start and a good start under his belt, and now we're going to see what happens. Brady Singer's in the exact same position. Good start, bad start. JP Sears, everybody remember JP Sears? Ty, he's the reason why I won week 2 in the home league, baby. He got a quality start on Sunday. He had a couple Ks, not big, but it was enough. He had enough of those positive things on a horrible Oakland team that I don't know if they blew it or if it was 4-4, something like that. Anyway, when I last looked, I was like, and now I'm winning 8-7 Sunday night. I love this. Finally leading for the first time all week. And just like my Corona and DeSorona mixed together, I blew it and then got all nervous. But I'm 1-1 in that league. How are you doing in the home league?
Not good. Yeah, lost first 2 weeks to the guys that finished last. The one thing about that league, though, Robbie, is that you're really able to reload in that league rather quickly. So I think actually for the first time, friend of the show Glenn did a good job of reloading, and then turned around and traded his first overall pick, which was
to no one's surprise. Surprise.
But they both had big weeks. Like I went up against 16 stolen bases last week. That's,
oh my God, really?
Yeah. My team stole 1, but
holy crap.
But I think that's 16. The most I've seen. Yeah, that's the most I think I've ever seen in a 1 week format.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I think that's the same. Who is their big base stealers?
All of them. They're salted. Just so
everybody.
Fast.
Pitchers were stealing bases. Holy
smokes. So I just and then there was 12 saves. I got whooped. Not even from poor performance, which my team was average. It was an average week in both weeks. But I got pumped in both of those. So it's one of those ones where you just kind of tip your cap and be like, please don't do that again.
Yeah. And you're going to end up facing both those guys down towards the stretch, if I'm not mistaken.
Which is great because they'll both ruin their teams by then.
I'm just gonna look now because we have what 21 weeks of regular season for us. So I'll finish with Glenn. And just and who's
Well,
I'm not a crook.
and I said to the guys last week, I was like, listen, congrats on listening to all my advice last year
Oh,
when I
Jay.
told you to pick up all these guys in trade. And then congratulations on beating me without Altuve and Tatis, right? Like, let's see what happens the next time around. And a couple days earlier, I had chirped them for no good reason, just because I like to do it. And then they returned the favor, which I appreciated. So all good fun. That's why we do these things.
Absolutely. So one thing that I want to do, we did this last year, Ty, and we're going to wait till May to do it with the minor league guys. We're just going to talk about some of the top players in fantasy, since we very rarely ever do that, because we're all about finding the hidden value, which of course we will get into tonight. But Ty, do you want to take a guess off the top for who the top rated pitcher is in fantasy baseball right now and the top rated hitter?
Ooh, top rated pitcher. It's going to be an obscure one, isn't it?
It's not.
Me
Both
at least
are. Who? Sorry.
No, sorry, no, I didn't say anything.
Oh,
Oh no, Shohei's number one.
No, Otani is not number
Really?
one. No, he is not. It is Garrett Cole of the Yankees.
Ugh.
Yeah, and who do you think is the top hitter?
It's not Adam Duvall anymore.
No, but sadly, he was number two. He was number two before his injury. My gosh, what a devastating blow for everybody out there. 33, is it 33? Yeah, 33 magical at bats he had this year, and then got hurt. But anyway, no, it is also an outfielder. And that is all I will say.
Is it Trout?
It is Ronald Acuna Jr.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, and also surprises for highly rated guys. Jorge Mateo with Baltimore, who 8 stolen bases, so he must have been on one of the teams that pumped you. Matt Chapman, Pete Alonso, Brandon Lau of Tampa Bay, Kyle Tucker, Xander Bogaerts, Vladdy, Brian Reynolds, who you love to hate, Matt Olson, and then we get into Chris Mullins. Now I'm using the 8x8 category here, which allows for a little bit more of a rounded player to make it. As far as the pitching goes, Ty, we've got top 10 of Cole, Castillo with my Mariners. I did skip Adley Rutschman. My apologies. I skipped Rutschman. He was number 3 on the hitters. So my apologies there for him. 61 at bats. Good for him. Jeffrey Springs, who I believe is now dead. Joe Ryan with the Twins. Shane McClanahan. I think I've heard of him before. Anthony Desclafani coming off the heap. Back for everybody at the number 6 position. Justin Steele with the Cubs. I'm just trying to look for a stat line here. And then where are we getting here? We got to go down there quite a ways.
Formats.
Yeah, Pablo Lopez with the Twins, Julio Urias, Kyle Freeland is number 9, and then the
Fun
number
fact:
10.
Pablo 4-year extension today.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Good for him. Well, the top-rated closer is the 10th rated pitcher, and that is Jorge Lopez, who's 44th in 8x8. So you got to go through 44 players to get through 10 pitchers in fantasy early on this year. But anyway, it's been interesting. I mean, there's lots of names. Is there anybody on any of your rosters that has either absolutely disappointed you early or been a super pleasant surprise?
I wouldn't say super pleasant surprise, but Kalenic, you got to talk about what he's done over the last 2 weeks. He's been great. I think we're going to see more of that, not to the same 5 home runs in a row kind of scenario, but I've said this before. I think there's a balanced player there. A good swing plane. It had to make sense at some point, and I think we're going to see it a little bit. I really, really want to see Julio Kalenic off the top of that order, though. Like that, it has to happen. Righty, lefty, back to back. Like I'm waiting for that to happen because I think that's where the two of them are really going to do some magic, and I think it's going to help both of them with that lineup construction. And I mean, no knock on Ty France, but he doesn't belong there. He just doesn't. I'm sorry. You can fight me on that one if you want, anyone, but he's out of place there. So I mean, that's one. I think Nolan Gorman I picked up in a couple leagues. I didn't draft, and in some of my shallower leagues I was able to pick him up. He's been great. And then on the pitching side, I'm happy with what we're seeing from Dustin May because he's pitching and not throwing. Right? He's getting guys out without the strikeouts, and the strikeouts will come. So if you have the opportunity in any format to buy Dustin May right now before the strikeouts start to fall, do it now. And tonight might be your last chance against the Mets that put the ball in play quite a bit. But he's had in 3 outings so far, 7 innings, 6 innings, 5 1/3 with 4 strikeouts, 5 strikeouts, and 3 respectively. So, that is below K per 9, which isn't the type of stuff that May has. So I think just, that number is going to take a jump here. So if you want an acquisition target, that's going to be one for me. I've talked enough about him. Longtime listeners are going to know how I feel about Dustin May, but I just think there is a buy window here right before he takes off on a what could be the year he's the best pitcher in the Dodgers rotation.
Interesting. Julio Reyes would like to have a word, but that's okay.
Yeah, but his neck still hurts from giving up all those bombs in the first 3 weeks.
Well, somebody else, a former Dodger, who I think is riding the ship now in Washington is Josiah Gray, who after a rough first start has a stat line now that looks, underwhelming. Ideal for acquisitions, 16 2/3 innings this year, 13 Ks, 0-3 with a 4.32 ERA, but only a quality start as well. I shouldn't say but, and just one quality start. Kopech Singer I mentioned a little bit earlier. One of the surprises of my team's tie, as I should say in a negative way, has been Josh Bell, but it looks to me like Bell may be turning the corner now after last week or last 7 days having a 347, 1100 OPS week and finally got on the board with his first dinger of the year. When Josh Bell gets hot, it's fun and exciting. When he is not doing well, he's on your bench. And in a few leagues, I've acquired him, even ponying up the dough to get him through Prospect Capital in a dynasty league. And he's been on my bench for I think 10 days. And only over the weekend was I finally like, it's time to put him in. It's time to move out Mike Moustakas, who is not doing anything for me. But that's just showing you how little Josh Bell's doing when you'll finally move him out. One of the players who I think has been really interesting and somebody who everybody likes but doesn't talk a whole lot about, I want to see how the season goes here. Tyler Stevenson, who with the Reds last year only had 166 at bats. He's already 51 into this year. And I'm kind of wondering if it was either like bad matchups or something. But last week he really dropped off a cliff after having a hot start. He had a well over 300 average. And then last week he only bat 190, 4 for 21 on the week. But I'm wondering if there's a bit of fatigue we're going to notice with him a few times this year if he just is in consistently. Possible dynasty, for me, a dynasty target, but possible frustrating guy to have on your fantasy rosters this year, if that's going to happen with the up and down. I mean, it's kind of the nature of the beast too, for some of these guys. If you don't have good pitching matchups, you're going to struggle or you're going to look like you're not very good. One of my favorite guys, Ty, who I admit I didn't pick up in enough places this offseason, but I was all over him, very interested in him, was Stone Garrett, who had, I think it was 914 home runs last year in AAA, I believe with Arizona, and then signed an MLB deal with the Nationals. And I was like, oh, look at the Nationals. All offseason, we were talking about how terrible that outfield was. And then they went ahead with Alex Call, who they picked up in August off waivers, gave him some MLB time. He was a Guardians farmhand. And it looked like, they had a couple pieces in place that could be fun for fantasy. Stone Garrett, when put in the lineup, has been amazing. Only 1 home run, but he's got how many extra base hits here? 4 extra base hits with that home run, 3 doubles. But he's got a 563 average and a 1,549 OPS. It's only been 16 at bats, but he also played. This is what I want to draw everyone's attention to. He's played 4 games to this point. April 5th, he had 1. April 8th, he had 1 in Colorado. That was his big 2 double night, 1 home run. Then April 9th, he played again in Colorado, then sat for a full week until last Sunday, played against Cleveland at home, and still was able to get a double, 2 hits, and drive in 2 runs. So Stone Garrett just looks like he's primed for primed for production. What he doesn't have right now is playing time. So his stat line is going to look good. He's going to be hard to acquire anywhere that he's, on a team or something. But again, he's struggling for playing time. But the numbers look great if he was to actually be put in the lineup regularly. Corey Dickerson, who's the guy who's supposed to be the left fielder with the Nationals, is still not back doing anything close. So I would say he's minimum 2 weeks away from taking playing time away. And Alex Call could be the guy that gets nixed if Stone Garrett looks like the better bench option. And when you can keep hitting like this, you're going to stay up, and they're going to let the other guy go back to AAA and play every day.
Yeah, absolutely. One guy that I think we talked about a little bit in the offseason that's been great so far is Marcus Stroman. We talked about the improved defense with the Cubbies. 3 outings so far, 3 quality starts, 2 earned runs in 18 innings. Pretty good. 10K per 9, and that'll be a bit of a stretch for his season long output. But, a positive start for him. He's definitely throwing the ball well. Could be a really good first half performer. I would love to see how long he can carry that. But, it's not that he hasn't shown good ERA value in the past. And I think that Cubbies team is going to win way more games than people think. They're scrappy. And we talked about that in the offseason. If they get the pitching, they're going to be there. And I think, Stroman and Steely are already right there. I think they've got a couple other guys, Hayden, Wiskenski, and
Tyon too. Like
Tyon's there. Yeah, like they've got enough to be mediocre on the pitching side. And if the offense can be gritty like it is, I think they could win some games in a soft division. So it'll be interesting to see where they finish up. But there's a whole bunch of other guys that I just really like as baseball players that maybe aren't fantasy guys. But I think as the season goes on, if you're in some of your flatter formats or your 8x8s, like Brandon Marsh in Philly, I like as a guy to have a strong like 15 to 20 home run season by the time we're done. His OBP right now, Robbie, you'll love this number, 440.
Oh wow.
And that's a guy that can move too, right? So there's a chance he's only got 1 stolen base so far, but you might see the Phillies steal some more bases once Harper's back. I don't think they're going to take those chances just yet, but once that lineup gets a tick deeper, I could see them taking some runs at it. And then go ahead.
Well, it's interesting on Marsh. I had a trade offer, 1-for-1, Brandon Marsh for 4 years of control, or Ha-Seong Kim for this year and 2 more. And I wasn't interested in it. Now, I talked to you before we started recording about my fears with Kim losing playing time once Tatis is back and the whole San Diego lineup shuffle. But I felt like with Kim's decent start, I wanted to be able to turn it for more of a, pitcher type guy. So would you just want to take a guess at who it was that I went out and acquired? This was with friend of the show, Michael Govier. He and I made a trade in this 30-team league. So he wanted some Ha-Seong Kim because he needed a starting shortstop, and I wanted a starting pitcher. So I went out, Ty, and I acquired none other than Mr. Brady Singer from him. So I've got 2 years of Brady Singer. I gave up 3 years of Ha-Seong Kim. How do you think I did in that trade? The money's a wash.
Yeah, I think you win that trade. I would have taken the Marsh trade. The Marsh trade was the trade.
See, the problem that I had was my fear was Marsh's hot start and the fact that I kind of have a bunch of guys I spent a lot of money on this offseason, Tyrone Taylor, Harrison Bader, and then I acquired Juan Soto. So I locked up the outfield, and I have Stone Garrett in that league. And I have, Sear Fairchild. I've got guys, so I was looking to lose that and just bulk up the pitching. So I figured it was a good deal, and it's a points league. So you always want your pitchers down the stretch in the points league. But one guy I have in this league that I really would like to be able to make a trade away from is somebody that I think could be super valuable as the year goes by in deep leagues. And right now it looks terrible because he should be free. And that's Josh Smith of the Texas Rangers. Thanks to several injuries, he's going to end up with 3 position eligibility. I don't know if he doesn't have it right now, within the next 10 days, because he's now the shortstop who's played 7 games at short for the Rangers as of this recording. He's also currently got left field and third base eligibility, depending on your league setup. He played more than 20 times at each of those last year. Now, he's sucked offensively early on this year, 133 average, headed into play tonight, but he's playing every day. And he's a decent enough offensive guy that he can turn it around. He's an OBP league guy, 350 OBP. So if you're not playing with average, then you already like Josh Smith and you should have him on a roster. But this is somebody who I think very quietly could end up with an important fantasy season, very under the radar. Like how we were excited for Jose Siri pre-injury. He came out of the gates hot. He was a top 50 guy. It was really early, but then he goes out. Josh Smith, I think, is burning it the other way. He's going to be somebody later on this year that you're going to be like, geez, he's accumulated some numbers here. Although right now it's not looking good.
He to me is like a poor man's Joey Wendell. Like when Joey Wendell was a poor man's everything, right? Like, so I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
the
fair.
reality.
Tampa Bay
Like the
play
same,
Wendell.
yeah, very, very similar style of play. He's touch faster than Wendell. But I there's not less power as well. So, that's the big thing for me is like if you need average or even, maybe some stolen bases, like he might be a guy, but I just don't know if he has enough depth outside your deep leagues. Like in a deep league, sure, yeah, he's a warm body, and sometimes in some formats that's good enough. But just that's the only thing I'm concerned with on that one, Robbie, is just the production. Is it Sanio Espinal?
Right,
Is
he's a
is
bench
that what
bat
we're
right
getting?
now. Yeah, for sure
Yeah,
he's a bench bat right now, but I just think he's one of those guys that's so low under the radar. But I think the outlook from a team perspective is that he's going to play every day because they've got other guys like Leody Taveras is back right now, but that doesn't affect him because he went to the infield. That affects Bubba
right.
Thompson. That affects Robbie Grossman, who, oh my God, Robbie Grossman's been so bad. He's DHing now with Texas. Like the DFA's got to be on the wall for him
Oh yeah,
if he can't turn around soon, because Texas has too many controllable guys to keep a Grossman around. But they also have they have Duffy and oh my gosh, the blast from the past that I just saw last week that was on Texas roster. Oh my goodness, I'll look it up. But it was somebody who, when I saw it, I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? Like
Brad
they're
Miller.
just thank you. No, it wasn't Brad Miller. Nope, nope, nope. I gotta look. I'll check it out on Fangraphs. But is there anybody that, I mean, if you want it, we can go into the fun, exciting news of who recently got called up, the next superstar shortstop, or you can talk a little about how good your cheater shortstop has been in AAA.
Well, I think we should just get into how neat the shortstop position is in general, and I think there's been some funny things in some of our bigger leagues, Robbie, with controllable position guys. I think it's an interesting topic. I would love to hear some people comment on Twitter. Hit us at Dingers Pod or at Robbie Baseball One or me at Turney Boss. And just the thought on this one though is just simply around hoarding a position in a deep league.
Right.
Where
Yeah.
do we stand on that? We have a couple guys in our deeper leagues that are holding on to 4 shortstops in a 30-team league. And, on one hand, it's strategy. And on the other hand, it's like, come on, bro. Like,
Yeah, there's a way to make your team a little bit better. Travis Jankowski is the left
uh,
fielder for the Texas Rangers right now, who is pissing me off because he's stealing at bats from Bubba Thompson and forcing Ezekiel Duran to the bench as well. So Bubba Thompson, instead of being an everyday left fielder, is stuck in a platoon situation. But POS Robbie Grossman, who, yes, I thought was going to be very good last year, but he wasn't, and that's why he's a POS, is DHing and taking those at bats. So it sucks. It sucks so bad right now with Texas situation, because I feel like they could be such a fun team, but maybe that's what happens when Bruce Bochy goes to a team that's full of veterans, is he just wants to play more of them, and he's not a big fan of the rookies. Can you think of another rookie that offensive rookie that Bruce Bochy had in his time with the Giants? I'll name you the only one that I can think of right now, Brandon Belt. The only player who I know he had from called up as a rookie that was like a major leaguer. No, I don't think was
yeah,
Bochy there for him, his call up?
pretty
If he
sure.
was, okay, sure. Yeah, if he was. But again, that's a top pick. That's a
Yeah,
top
and
pick.
Hunter Pence came from Houston before. So yeah, that I don't think he played as a rookie in San Francisco. That was the only other one that I was trying to think about.
Yeah, so I feel like my point in this was, I feel like I'm going to be really disappointed because it's going to be like Josh Jung is the one that he's going to go
Yeah.
with. Not that, like, why wouldn't you, right? But he's not going to give a lot of weight to others. He's obviously saying, Josh Smith, you're a good defender, so you're going to play, and I don't care about, I'll punt your at bats. But he shouldn't be doing it with Robbie Grossman, but right now he is. And then you've got like Brad Miller and Sandy Leon as your bench catching type DH options, which just sucks. So anyway, Texas is a mess, and we'll get into something else that's a little messy with DeGrom Nation right now crying over what happened. But yeah.
Apparently it's a sore wrist. Early diagnosis on the DeGrom injury is sore wrist, whatever that's from. But I don't know. I know Reese McGuire's on Boston still, so it's unrelated.
Oh, wow. Wow. Maybe they
That
trained
joke's-
together in the off season.
Yeah. 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 They trained in the Netherlands.
Okay, Ty, let's get into some fun stuff. So Zach Neto, Los Angeles Angels first round pick last year. He's up. I predicted this. I said I'm excited for him. And then the one league that I thought I'd be able to get him later in, which I'd already talked about on the podcast, was our 24 team 8x8 called the Dynasty League. I didn't get him. Your buddy did. And I'm pissed. And now that he's up, he started 0 for 8, but I think he got a hit today. Very excited because he's leading off. Like, can you imagine you're a rookie? You know, I'm using air quotes sensation in the fact that you were drafted less than a year ago, and now you're leading off for your major league team that drafted you. And who's behind you? Oh, it's Mike Trout. And then who? Oh, Shohei Ohtani. Yeah, okay. Just get on base, dumbass. You know, like that's got to be the message for Neto right now. Like, take your walks. Do not steal a base right now, you know, without 2 outs. But I feel like he could be one of those guys who, as soon as there's 2 outs, are like, go for it, take the base. Because he had, I think, 6 in AA before he got called up. But the other fun thing with Neto getting called up, that throws a big loop into the Angels' depth at shortstop, because they had Livan Soto, who came up last year and hit over his head. Sure, he had 400 average in his time, but he was waiting at AAA. He didn't get the assignment. They had Andrew Velasquez, I think that's the right guy, who's like a defensive shortstop who played a lot last year, got hurt. I'd say he's out of the picture now, right? You're going with offense. That's what you're looking for right now. But also interesting, Ty, they had Gio Urshela playing shortstop with the Angels. Yeah. They sent down David Fletcher, who still, I think, has 2 years, like this year and 2 more years left of major league contract extension. They just want to get Fletcher right so he can come back and be on the bench. Like that's fine. But like, this could be huge. Like the fantasy shakeup this is the one you want, is Zach Neto coming up. But the fallout in your deep leagues is like, now what happens to your Soto shares? Your, you know, if you had Velasquez, whatever his value would have been, right? Starting players all have value, but you know, what are you going to do with the rest of those guys? And Urshela, of all places, Ty, looks like he's going to settle at first base now. So I think without having played 25 games, he will have played at 4 different positions this year, if I'm correct, because I think he started the year at third, played a game or 2 maybe at second base, or maybe he moved during games, something like that, and then went to shortstop. But now they've made the call to Neto, and he's moved over to first. And then Jared Walsh was nothing to be excited about last year. He was very disappointing for fantasy. So Urshela could just find himself now as kind of a, you know, diamond in dynasty leagues, because he kicked around. He was pretty good last year with the Twins. That's another guy. Anyway, Zach Neto is the exciting part here, that Neto is up.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for me. Like, these are the guys that always scare me the most in these scenarios. It's not that he hasn't earned it. It's just like, we talked about this with guys like Torkelson in the last couple of years. Like, I don't like when top end guys get rushed, and it's because I have a background in like motor behavior, and the research says the more you train, the more ready you are. And there's only a handful of guys. Like, I think there's so many organizations right now which are trying to keep up with the guys that rocketed Acuna and Guerrero and Tatis to the pros. Like, these are like generational guys. Like, Mike Trout didn't even get rushed to the pros, right? Like, it's not normal to come up at this age. And so
Soto was rushed. Yeah, sorry, that was another guy. Soto was rushed.
He was. Yeah, he was. And like, look at him right now. Like, you know, he's still young. Right, still young, but like, these are the times like where people figure out how to find the holes in your swings. They found it for Soto right now, right? Like, he's not hitting baseballs. He was batting like 182 the other day when I looked. I don't know what he's at today, but like, that's not good enough for a guy that's going to get paid a lot of money. His value right now is going the wrong direction. So good for San Diego, and maybe they're secretly
they can try to retain him.
Yeah, like, they're secretly just putting stuff in his water to make him go slower. But you know, like, these are the kind of things that happen. And you know, there's many stories of guys like this that get rushed up, and there's far fewer of the guys that come up at 18, 19, and 20 and have long careers. You know, often they're Hall of Famers, but there are fewer of them. So, you know, that's my concern with a guy like Neto, is just, it's not so much that he can't be, it's just the risk, right? So if you're a Neto owner, like, for me, anytime I see a guy like this and I have another shortstop, I'm trading Neto. Like, that's just my default move because of the risk. But I got to have a second guy. If I don't have a second guy, different conversation. But
That's interesting.
I-
Another guy that I just to add to your point of like guys who come up early that finish poorly. Jason Hayward, who I mentioned earlier, he was up early with
Yep.
Atlanta. He was sensational.
Correct.
But by the time he was 27, he was with the Cubbies with his big contract, and everybody has been harping on him since that time. He's now, I think, only 33.
Yeah,
Like
it's wild.
he is not an old man by any stretch. And yet he is treated like, Father Time has come to claim him long ago. And this with the Dodgers is his last hope. But he's still at the point where guys are getting paid $20 million that are his age.
He's the Major League Baseball version of the kid in grade 9 with a mustache, right? He grew up way too early, right?
He was bigger and better than everybody, and then they caught up. Yeah, then they all went to college, and he went straight to the workforce or something.
That's right. Yeah.
He's like, I got no debt. And then 10 years later, his truck's all rusty. Anyway, sorry. I was going to try to bring truck in because I heard you say, motor earlier. I got excited. But anyway, something that I'm going to mention right now that has been an observation of mine because I was talking to you about it before we started. But something everyone that listens to us already knows is that we concentrate on the extra areas to find dynasty value. So Arizona Fall League, top breakouts, players who get added to their team's 40-man roster in December. These are players who I think as the years go by, this year already has a few examples. These are players to really start to give some legitimate roster space for in your dynasty leagues. Eduardo Julian, who we had, kind of a laugh about, had a great fall league. And I, said, how do you know he was Canadian Ty? And you pretended like you didn't look it up, whatever. We know. Juan Brito with the Yankees, who was absolutely not at all a fantasy asset until he was this week or this, whatever, to start the season. 3 starts in. Yeah, he had a bad one, really bad one the last time out, but it looks like the Yankees are sticking with him. And that is fantasy value. Even if, like you said about, Neto coming up early and then you trade him, these could be guys that you could look to trade immediately. There's value within these types of players. And I think it's something we're going to have to follow, look at some of and these are the top breakout guys. Nelson Velasquez was one from a couple years ago. Everybody got really excited about him. But there were other players within that as well that we're going to have to look, especially the guys I think who are getting added to their team's 40-man, like the Britos, who we have to look and be like, why are they on that roster and, on that 40-man now that you wouldn't consider them to be fantasy assets? What is it that the Yankees might see in him that would let them have him come up in the first week and start? Obviously there's injuries, but why are they in line to walk into what will now be, I think, at least 5 starts for him? Hunter Gaddis, I believe that's right. It's Hunter. With the Guardians, another guy, right, doesn't deserve to be there. You got Logan Allen down in AAA, 14 and a third innings, 20 Ks, a 1.26 ERA, and a 1.05 WHIP. But Hunter Gaddis is getting the starts right now, so something to look at down the road.
That just screams they want to keep contract flexibility for when they trade Bieber. That just for me that's a huge we are trading our core away like we always do. Right, because they do have some guys coming, right? They have a couple, so they have room to make a couple moves.
I think they're the deepest organization in Major League Baseball. I think they could lose anyone at any position and they could still roll on. They lost former All-Star, not ever an All-Star, Aaron Savale, and they're going to roll on. And this could be the Logan Allen call-up that I've been waiting for patiently.
No, it's too soon. We won't see him till September. That's just the way Cleveland does it. They've got a formula. They're good at it. They won't mess with it because I really just don't think they're a playoff team this year. They don't hit nearly as well as everyone believed they did, and they did very similar to what Seattle did last year. They won a whole bunch of really close games because they have good pitching, and that's often how you build a team with good pitching. But at the same time, there's room for those teams to go all the way to the bottom. And I not that either of them are going to go to the bottom, but I just don't think they're going to be locks to be in the playoffs like a lot of people pick them to be.
Well, let's have a quick, pour one out for our homies here. Oscar Gonzalez, who went from dynasty darling last, June and beyond. I think that's about right when he came up because he was raking at AAA in May. To now a forgotten soldier, and everyone's like, oh, Will Brennan, that was always our guy. Will Brennan was the guy who came up later last year, for Cleveland and just was fine, and then got scooped up in all the dynasty leagues that he hadn't previously been drafted in, as part of that, Cleveland core of new outfielders. But Oscar Gonzalez seems to have lost whatever it was he found last year, and I certainly hope he gets it back because he was a good minor league player. But it looks a little rough, and that's part of your point about talking about not getting the runs, not being able to be a competitive team. They need those bench bats in Cleveland to be sticking. And who's the other one? Gabriel Arias? Is that the third base, first base? Yeah, he's another one who
Shortstop.
defensive whiz. But right now he can't pay $5 for a single. Like, the guy's got nothing offensively. I got him in 1 points league. I think he's averaged less than a point, and he's not playing regularly either. But with Josh Bell struggling, he wasn't able to carve out regular at bats with production, which was unfortunate. That was a time to get a bit ahead if you were Gabriel Arias on playing time for the year, and he sort of blew it. But all right,
these things happen though. I mean, it's still so early. Like, for me, and I've said this a lot of the time when we've talked about Will Brennan, like, I just think there's a shelf life there. I don't think he's had enough at bats to get exposed yet. I think there's a guy that is a decent fourth outfielder. I just don't see him as an everyday starter on almost any major league team. And, that's one that if all of a sudden power comes out of nowhere and he starts to rake, like, I'll be dead wrong on that one. I don't see that as a reality. And our track record of Cleveland outfielders suggests I'll be right on that one. So, I think that's just the issue. Like, for me, Oscar Gonzalez, I'm okay with him getting a slow start, right? Because, they want to protect him a little bit. He's a big dude running around in the cold in Cleveland. I certainly understand why you might want to limit at bats for a guy that's still not right fully with the hit tool yet. So, sometimes these things don't always have the undertone of what they look like from the outside. It's important to keep that in mind. It doesn't mean anything I just said is right, but for me, if I was to pick one outfielder that's not Miles Straw that's going to get significant at bats, like, it's going to be Gonzalez for me. He has the most power, and what we know about baseball right now is that power plays, and you don't need the extra on base percentage in Cleveland. It's the one thing you don't need.
Yeah, and like Miles Straw, no power. He's out there to catch balls. He's batting ninth. You've got oh my gosh, who's the left fielder, Ty? Why can I not remember his name right now? Quan. Jeez, no, Quan. Quan, who's just had a fine start, up and down. I mean, over the course of 3 days, your average can still jump 70 points right now. So they have not been able to narrow it down, but he's been a little bit below, just like Julio Rodriguez. Everybody wants him to be up, batting 300. But do you want power with Rodriguez, or do you want, overall, or sorry, do you want average with Rodriguez, or do you want overall production? You want overall production. With Quan, you're kind of like, yeah, no, I need the average. That's the whole point of Stephen Quan is the average. Well, he's just not up, as high as he was previously, but give him 4 days. Nobody needs to panic on Stephen Quan. He's going to be pretty good with Cleveland. Somebody else who is with Cleveland at AA, mind you, in 2 starts, 9 and a third, has a .96 ERA, 12 Ks, and a decimal 86 whip. I believe he's my third ranked starting pitcher prospect, Gavin Williams, future ace of the Guardians. One of the reasons why the Bieber trade will be able to go through without everybody crying. Logan Allen, followed by Gavin Williams. But I think, Ty, we have exhausted the Guardians talk. So let's talk about somebody else.
Yeah, like I think there's a couple lefties that I want to talk about. And I think this is one of the things that a lot of people miss. Like, Tristan Casas is a guy that we talked about in the spring and in the offseason. I was huge into Casas a year ago. And then as he got to the upper minors, like, for me, he got exposed. He got exposed at the pros. And I feel like it's happening still. Now, he's a big, strong dude. The adjustment could still happen. But he's hitting 146 right now, Robbie, with everyday at bats. And that's not going to cut it for too much longer. If it wasn't for Boston being really, really, really bad, he probably already would be on the bench. And I think that's an interesting thing here.
Bobby Dahlback being the other option. Yeah, that's the other saving grace that Casas has right now, is that it's Dahlback or him. So, give it to Casas.
Yeah, and so, like I mentioned, the off-speed stuff for me, like, it was really, really obvious in the spring. that he was off balance on the off speed stuff. So it's going to be one of those ones where it's going to take a big adjustment to get him to where his potential is, because the potential is still absolutely there. But then you turn the page, and there's a reason I wanted to compare these two guys, Robbie, because one of the next guy went through a very similar experience last year, and that's Josh Lowe in Tampa Bay, right? Very similar, big, broad guy. Lowe runs a little bit better, but he's off to a phenomenal start. He's hitting 372. He hit his 4th home run today. And there's a comparable there. Now, Lowe wasn't getting beat as bad. He just didn't get enough at bats at the pro level to really get there. And frankly, could have fallen to the case we talked about earlier about needing just a little more seasoning at AAA, which he got. And now he's right where he needs to be. So if the Rays take him out of the platoon scenario that he's currently in, we'll see what Josh Lowe really is against the lefties. We don't know right now because they've pretty much straight platooned him so far. So it's going to be interesting to see how long they play that game, because right now, him and Randy Arozarena are everything that is Tampa Bay. When they go, they win, and when they don't go, they're not so much.
Right.
So that's kind of the interesting one. I think they're a really good comparable. Is there anybody, Robbie, that you see like this year that everyone was excited about, but you've got somebody that maybe next year would be the guy?
Next year will be the guy. Like in my head, Matt Libator should have already been up, but the Cardinals and Adam Wainwright have been able to. I mean, I know Wainwright being hurt, but try this again. Prior 2 years, Wainwright just fountain of youth. Libator on fire in AAA, and he's somebody that everybody's forgotten about because once you come up and you don't exceed expectations and you're sent back down, or you're one of those guys who the Keston Hira fear starts to come in up and down, but Hira did have MLB success at least. Libator, 17 innings pitched, so 3 starts, 24 Ks, a 1 ERA, a 1 WHIP. He's ready. It's just a matter of, can St. Louis bring him in? And when St. Louis brings him in, will they leave him in? Make him SP5. Miles Mikolas has had up and down times with St. Louis, but he's also been a good fantasy asset. Matt Libator could be the next guy with the Cardinals who is just that type of guy. I really do like him. Dynasty value is shot for most people with him. I'm just checking now. I don't know, has he had 50 MLB innings?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Mikolas has an 8.1 ERA, so they're very easily could be a scenario. I still think because St. Louis isn't off to a brutal start. They're 7-9. I don't think they're going to rush Libator.
No, 34 and 2/3 innings, Ty. Sorry, 34 and 2/3 innings for Libator career. 7 starts. Yeah, 7 starts. They were last year. So anyway, but again, like forgotten from your dynasty rosters, right? He falls under the Joe Adell, Mickey Moniak, up and down fail type guy. You can acquire him. This is somebody I would aggressively try to get right now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one because I think there's some free W's on that one. Like I think that's one thing people often forget in fantasy is like, how do I get free wins? Right? I'll take my 3.5 ERA and some wins, and Libator fits that kind of mold. It's an interesting one. And in that rotation, like Flaherty's had polarizing starts so far, where he's been great and not great all mixed together. Somehow sub 3 ERA at this moment. I don't know how that's possible, but he's done it. It's going to be really interesting what they do with that rotation because we talked about in the offseason, like they don't have an ace, right? That just doesn't exist. Like you've got Wainwright who, gets ace respect because he's got the resume, right? You've got Jose Quintana who's hurt. You've got Matz who we talked about. Mikolas who we talked about.
Quintana is with the Mets hurt.
That's right. I always get that squared up. Yeah.
But he did play for the Cardinals, so that's okay.
Yeah,
you're just months behind.
A year late. Yeah.
You just forgot about the offseason.
Well, either way, we've got room in St. Louis for him to squeeze into that rotation, and I think they'll do that. The other one that's there that's been pitching good out of the bullpen is Zach Thompson. Is a guy that was once thought to be a starter in that rotation, has been reasonable out of the bullpen so far too. And Palente, same thing in that bullpen. If you're looking for some holds, Palente could be a really easy one. Zach Thompson still sporting the old goose eggs on the ERA category. So That's a promising one on that front. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting as we roll into the season, like what we're kind of starting to see. We're starting to see some more power start to kick up. But I think I've been blown away by the stolen bases, Robbie. Like I think we expected it, right? We expected to see an increase, but it's really jumped. And from some guys that I didn't really expect. I didn't see Volpe stealing this many bases off the start. I don't know. Did you expect that one?
What's he got? Sorry, I'm just trying to look at stolen base leaders right now. But I'm
I wanna
using the
say he's at,
Yahoo
like,
app. Very
6. Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've got to go to all hitters and then
For this purpose, like Yahoo is the best. Like for searching data, I like show me a different one that
7 stolen bases. So okay, so just here, let's just do top 10 stolen bases. I'm surprised by number 1, Nico Horner, who has 8, who's also tied with Jorge Mateo and Mullins, who both Baltimore. Not surprised at Mullins or Mateo. They're both fast guys. Marte's got 7, Acuna's got 7, Volpe 7, Miles Straw 7. That is a little surprising to me. Corbin Carroll with
I'm
6.
surprised he's got on base 7 times to have 7 steals.
Well, that was what I was thinking, but he's got a 330 average right now. So he's the guy who's overachieving in Cleveland right now. Corbin Carroll, Gleyber Torres has 5, Bobby Witt with 5, Andres Jimenez, Stephen Kwan, which is excellent, Tim Anderson, who's hurt at the moment, and then you've got a bunch of dudes at 4. So, yeah, it's great. Jaywan Bay as well on the board. I remember
I'm
when
glad you brought him up
back in
because he has the weirdest stat line tonight. So listen to this. He's 0 for 2 with 3 runs scored, no walks, and 2 RBIs.
Whoa.
How do you get there? How do you get there? Like I saw that while we were talking earlier, and I'm like, I don't even know. Like I'm trying to figure out like sack fly, no, because you're 0 for 2, right? You got to figure there's like a muffed bunt or something in there. I don't even know.
Force out, something like that, right? You'd be say the bases are juiced and you ground one.
Like 3 fielder's choice to get on base 3 times and score. Like
it's baseball.
Yeah, but it's 0 for 2 with 3 runs scored, no walks. That's where I can't. I'm trying to figure out how that comes together. Like I don't get it.
Maybe no, because I feel like if you had a single and you tried to stretch it to a double, and they tagged you, you would be out but have had a single.
Yeah,
I forget how that works.
Like he got hit by a pitch. Like that's the only thing that I can think of is get hit by a pitch. That's the only edge case that I've come up with in my head. But I find that one very interesting. Like you just don't see a stat line like that very often.
Yeah. Ty, I've got some power numbers that I think are interesting. So guys with 5 or more dingers right now. Brandon Lau with Tampa Bay has 5. Aaron Judge has 5. Brian Reynolds with Pittsburgh has 5. Very polarizing dynasty guy, Brian Reynolds. Right? Trade target, blah, blah, blah.
He's playing the pay me card at this point.
Yeah. Bobby Lou, Luis Robert with the White Sox 5. Rowdy Talese, never heard of him. With Milwaukee, he's got 5. Matty Olson, Max Muncy. Now we get into the 6 club with Muncy, Ryan Mountcastle. Not loving the average right now at 217 with Mountcastle, but the production's there. 10 runs, 20 RBIs, a couple stolen bases. I guess he's decided he doesn't walk anymore, though. Only 3 walks and his 70 at bats. Patrick Wisdom. We all knew this was coming. Patrick Wisdom, 6 bombs, baby. That's what he does. 1,000 OPS. I love this from Patrick Wisdom. I only got 2 guys left tied. Circle back right after. Rafael Devers has 7. And of course, the magic man, Pete Alonso. Captain Kangaroo has 8. Loving me some Pistol Pete. So what were you going to say on Mountcastle or anybody else?
Yeah, Mountcastle, this is one of my favorite things in baseball, and it's lost in the modern game, but it was such an important part of some of the previous eras of the game. They're seeing more fastballs right now, like hittable fastballs, because the pitchers are rushed and the guys are stealing bases. Like in those scenarios, you're going to get more pitches to hit. And I think we're going to see a huge bump in home runs league wide this year. Like I think that's going to be the big thing. It's not going to be guys hitting home runs off the edges of the plate anymore. It's going to be guys with no power all of a sudden finding 10 and 15 home runs that, traditionally weren't there. Like that's the part I'm most excited about in the rule changes. And it's something that I tried to do in some of my leagues this year was to value the home run less, because like early in drafts, because I thought home runs were going to be way more available in the back half of drafts. So that's kind of like where I went into this year with that kind of philosophy. We'll see if it pays off in the end, but I just think given the rule changes, I think that's a foregone conclusion that there's more home runs. You look at a guy like Juan Gonzalez, who I saw some video of a couple weeks ago. I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot about that guy. But he had good power, but it wasn't like elite power. It was just, listen, I'm gonna hit the ball really hard into the gaps, and then I'm gonna brush my mustache off at second. And that's just kind of what that was. Like I'm looking forward to that era of baseball again because it's the best kind. There's a lot of baseballs in play. You force the defenses to do things, and you can no longer run bad outfielders out there because you're going to get exposed. It's going to be awesome.
That's interesting, Ty. I definitely something to follow, right? Like if this can continue well into May once it warms up across Major League Baseball. Something that is also fun and exciting is how many consecutive quality starts are guys going to have. Right now, I think Ohtani's got interrupted today because of the rain out. So he's only got 3. That's where he caps out. So we've got Garrett Cole and Shane Bieber, who are both minor league innings pitched leaders, also now both with 4 quality starts. It's a good thing everybody knew Shane Bieber was just going to be a bust, and they all got out on him, right? 4 quality starts later. Anyway, Graham Ashcroft surprisingly has 3 with Cincinnati, which, I mean, that's the surprise of this list. Maybe Kyle Freeland or Mitch Keller could be in all 3 of those guys are in contention for this. Julio Urias, Luis Castillo, Kevin Gausman, Pablo Lopez, Shane McClanahan, and Desclafani also have 3 and 4 respectively throughout those guys. And you've previously mentioned Steele and Stroman. Those are some quality start guys. Ashcroft's
a guy. Well, we talked about him in the offseason, right? Like,
we did.
We talked about him being a guy to watch. I'm telling you, there's something unique about his fastball. Like years later, somebody's gonna be like, that guy did this thing weird. Or the first time he's on Sunday night, we're just gonna see some graphics.
And everybody watches him. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
everybody sees
so there's stuff here. There's always been stuff here, but it's just, I think he's finally going to be given that shot. And I mean, Hunter Green got hit by a linebacker drive back through his body today. So he's now the SP2 in Cincinnati behind Lodolo. So
perfect. And Lodolo's having himself a good year too.
Sure is.
So, but let's transition here, Ty. We're getting to the hour mark. So Jacob deGrom, I believe, you said it's a wrist injury, so he's likely out for the next 18 months. Guys out there are going to be looking for a replacement. Everyone, if you want to stick within the organization, depending on your dynasty league format. Oh, sorry, I wanted to check the level to which he was rostered. But the name that I have for you out there is left-handed pitcher Cody Bradford, 2019 6th-round pick of Texas. He's now 25 years old in AAA. 3 wins, 16 Ks, a decimal 6.7 whip, a decimal 5.5 ERA, and that's all in 16 innings. So let me just confirm here on Bradford, and I am checking out the Fantrax Dynasty ownership, because if you want to talk Dynasty baseball, you got to go on Fantrax, because that's where all the fun is. And you know where he's owned in any of my leagues, Ty? He's owned it nowhere in any of my leagues, which means he's owned nowhere in any of your leagues. Cody Bradford raking. So if you were able to go and pick up a rookie who's never played in MLB before and stash them in your minors, Cody Bradford at this point, really early in the year, could be worth it. If not for this immediate call up for somebody in May. If not, at that point in time, somebody else might just look at his stat line and be like, whoa, I'll give you something for him. And then maybe that's just something quick and dirty that you can do. If you've got to put him on your major league bench and wait for him, as long as you can do it, why not? You can't go wrong with a guy who's raking and is 25 years old. So he's ready to come up. This isn't somebody who's going to be, rushed like you talked about with Neto. But if you are at all interested in free value, he's rostered in approximately 1% of Fantrax leagues right now. So that's a guy. He'll be the potential steal of it all. Very much like everybody wants to put, what is it? Is it Colin Ray? Is that the Milwaukee Brewer?
Yep.
Former. Everyone's like, oh, Colin Ray. He's going to be the guy. He went to Japan last year, or KBO last year. And he came back this year. He's going to be great.
Where was he
picked
before?
Him up.
San Diego? Or Tampa Bay?
Good question. I
or
will very
both?
quickly. I was just gonna say I'll very quickly check. He definitely moved around, so I would say he was a multiple
Well, and those guys are trading
guy.
partners a lot of times, so that one seems like it was those two organizations in my brain. I can't shake it.
Oh, I mean, he started his MLB career in 15, so he had time in 15, 16, 19 starts in 16, and then just nothing until 2020. One RP performance in 21, goes to KBO. Now he's back and apparently going to be like a staple of the Brewers rotation. So again, I picked him up in one league, and he's owned in all the 30 team and 24 team leagues. But anything smaller than that, if you are desperate or looking for a potentially temporary to long-term replacement with zero prior dynasty value, Colin Ray, right? That's what it is. Yeah,
Yep.
Colin Ray.
Yep.
So that's the guy. I'm going to look and see where he previously was, though.
Yeah, and just while you're doing that, Robbie, just thinking about teams that have had rough starts, like this is your time to go start to look at buying. We're through a couple cycles through rotations. We're through almost what 75 at bats at this point, Robbie, right? So we're starting to have guys get worried about their rosters. So now is a good time to start to send out some of those, let's call them lopsided trade offers of the future. And I think it's a good window. What'd you find?
I found that he started his career with San Diego, moved to Miami, then went to Chicago, and then was with Milwaukee, went to KBO, came back with Milwaukee.
Nice.
So there
So
you
I
go.
San Diego. I'm going to take that as a small victory.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he started with San Diego. Some other interesting notes here from minor league baseball ties. Sam Robertson went AA starting pitcher with Toronto. This is somebody who's very slowly building up, some fantasy value. He's been a long time play. He was a J2 guy in like 19, maybe something like that. He was an international signing. Anyway, in 16, I think 16 innings right now, or no, maybe it was 9 innings, 16 Ks, 1.14 whip, 1.86 ERA. Also down beside him is Ricky Tiedemann, who's pitching. I don't have his stat line in front of me right now, but Tiedemann is the other guy. So they might be another one of those New Hampshire AA things where if you live at all near where they are or where they're going to play for the weekend, check it out. You could have a pretty nice weekend watching those two guys start back to back.
Well, and is Santos on that roster too? Like, is the other guy that's kind of up and coming? I'm going to look it up really quick.
Okay, sure. You look him up. I'm going to talk about somebody who people loved and then hated and traded, and I think he's back, baby. And that's Sam Backman with the Los Angeles Angels at AA right now in 10 2/3 innings pitched, a .66 whip, and a .84 ERA. I did have the Ks. Damn it. I think I deleted the Ks. I'm going to look that up because I care and it's important to us. But Backman was top 10, I think, pick in the 2021 draft. I'm going to find that out now too. It would help if I spelled his name properly. Bach, B-A-C-H. There we go, Rob. Anyway, Backman with the Angels I was thinking he was the 9th. Yeah, 9th overall pick in 2021. And as soon as he became a pro, everybody was like, I don't know what the big deal is with him. Last year, he had only 12 starts, 43 2/3 innings pitched, 30 strikeouts, and everybody was out. This year, in 10 2/3 innings, he's got 16 strikeouts. Like I said about the whip and otherwise, he's repeating AA, which is where he finished. Or sorry, not finished, but where he played last year. So it looks like it's a step back, but this could very well be somebody who's just getting their footing underneath them before a quick promotion to AAA before the summer. So I'm in on Backman. I was never out on him. I acquired him this offseason. I can't remember what the 1-for-1 trade was, but whoever it was I was dealing with, I thought it was interesting that they were willing to trade him to me, but I think they were just done with him and looking for somebody who was going to be up or a MLB peripheral roster type. It could have been a Connor Joe for Sam Bachman trade, something like that I made this year in a big money league.
Yeah. So confirmed, we have not seen Santos at AA yet. He's still in Vancouver, I believe. So
okay, he's waiting for
just
pro ball.
Fun update. Yeah.
All right. Somebody who has played MLB, played MILB, and apparently can no longer play MLB is Keston Hiura off Milwaukee's 40-man roster. But Ty's having a good time at AAA. 6 dingers, 279 average so far in AAA with Nashville. And then there's a few guys that are kind of tie guys, if we want to call them that. We've got Peyton Burdick leading whatever International League, I think is what they're called. 7 home runs and 57 at bats with a 351 average. This is the Miami Marlins outfield prospect that everybody has forgotten about. I think that's fair to say.
He was a late round pick, right? Like he wasn't coming from like high cut of cloth. Like he just hits. That's just what he does.
But it was like Burdick, Blade, Jesus Sanchez.
But
they were like a core that was supposed to do something, like.
But
Burdick was
only
the
at
third.
AAA though. Yeah, he was only the guy like that was mentioned because of the other two. Like if
Yeah.
the other two weren't around, they would have never mentioned Burdick. That's kind of the way he came up, which is good.
It's like the Guerrero, Bichette Biggio. It's
Except
just
he can
that.
hit.
Well, I was gonna say, except that the Guerrero in Miami isn't anybody. The Bichette in Miami isn't anybody, because Jesus Sanchez is definitely not one of those two guys, and JJ Bleday couldn't make Oakland's opening day roster. So anyway, speaking of couldn't make an opening day roster, Joe Adell with the Angels, 8 home runs, a 322 average, 13 walks in 59 at bats. Ty, we talked about before we started recording. You think he needs to no longer be an Angel? I thought that would have happened last year. Brandon Marsh was the guy that went. What are you thinking now?
It's a same scenario for me, because I think if they need another bat, it's going to be left-handed, and I think it's Mickey Moniak. The Brandon Marsh trade for me was weird. I think it's going to work because they got O'Hoppe in there now, which I still can't figure out how you pronounce that, O'Hoppe, side note. But anyway, I think the scenario here is just they're going to look for a defense first left-handed bat. It's why Brett Phillips is somehow a major league player, right? And so for me, like
you're absolutely right on that. You are. Brett Phillips is the reason. Sorry, left-handed batter is the reason Brett Phillips is still there. And I'll finish my interruption just by telling the 63 at bats that Mickey Moniak has had this year. He has a 286 average, 324 OBP, 831 OPS, which is very good for him. These are good positive stats. Only 2 walks though, 3 dingers to his credit, and stolen bases, 2.
He's just a good contact bat. Like that's just for me. Like there's way more pop in that bat than anyone's realized yet. Like that's the thing I've been saying. Like he had an injury last year which derailed the breakout, right? But there's way more power there than anyone has come to realize yet. And I've said this before. Go buy him. He will cost you nothing, right? Like whoever has him will give him to you, unless it's me, then I will not. But if somebody else has him, you can acquire Mickey Moniak. And when he comes up, when Hunter Renfroe struggles, which he will at some window, there could be playing time for Moniak, and he might not give it back. If Ward or Trout gets hurt, they'll get their spots back. But there's at bats for Moniak this season. I don't feel the same way about Adell, unless he continues to hit like he is, which is unlikely.
Okay, I do have a trade offer out there to acquire Mickey Moniak right now, because he can't be put in the minors in this particular league. I've offered previously mentioned Josh Smith as well as Hunter Gaddis to try to get Mickey Moniak. Gaddis is on a 1-year deal, whereas Smith and Moniak both have the same amount of time, which is 4 years left. So that would be fun if that deal would work. I don't think it will, because I think people are going to say, oh, my Moniak is worth more than your, which I think is going to be the issue in Dynasty. You're going to actually have to give something up that pretty much it's going to be one of those things like, you know what? I don't like this player, so I'm going to trade him, which is what I think happened this year when I was able to acquire Nolan Jones in one of our leagues in the offseason, and he did not have a good spring training. We talked about it. We said it was very disappointing because it seemed like the door was wide open for him, especially after Sean Bouchard got hurt with the Rockies. And in 39 at bats in AAA, he's got 8 walks, which is big. That's supposed to be his thing. OBP and average has been Nolan Jones's calling card. 6 dingers, not his calling card, but he's got those early, and that's excellent. And a 359 average. Nolan Jones, I think, is next man up. I don't know. It's not Zach Veen, right? Like that's not the smart thing to do if you're Colorado. The Jones clock is ticking, so I would think you would bring him up. But I don't know when, I don't know why, and I don't know where that would happen. But Nolan Jones, just so everybody doesn't forget about him in Dynasty, this is a pretty good buy low option along with Adele, but I think Jones's path to playing time is a little clearer than Adele's.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, for me, Adele still has to get traded. He's hitting 2 in Salt Lake, so take that for what you will. Moniak's hitting 3 though, so you know where the power bat is in that lineup. Just saying.
Wow. Wow, that's an interesting. Oh, Ty, I totally forgot to mention this. So right, like opening weekend, the whatever, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I kept getting prompted on apps about like great deals on MLB merchandise. So I finally clicked on one. I'm like, let's just see whatever this is. There was a site offering hats. This is not an ad, just for everybody out there. This is just me telling a story of how I bought a bunch of potentially never to arrive stuff. Hats, like Era 59 hats. So it was like an official looking hat. And then on the side, it said like 25 years, as an organization or something like that for Colorado or whatever it said. And it was like $9 and it fitted. You got to pick your hat size. So I was like, well, that's a great deal. Let's put a couple of these in the basket and see how much, shipping costs. Shipping was a flat rate of $29.50. So I said, okay, let's load this thing up. So I found like some hats that were $1.33 that I could get fitted. It said, like the 96 Yankees or whatever it said on, just like random stuff. I'm like, I can put these on the wall. This will be great. I could also wear them if they actually are good quality. Anyway, 14 hats later, I placed the order. It should be 130 Canadian, so a little over 100 US. If these show up, it is the deal of a lifetime, and I will let the people know the website. If it does not show up, because my credit card has been charged, I will let you know the website so you do not get scammed. But in the meantime, while we're waiting, just don't go buying any hats for great deals. But I did this deal, and I'm crossing my fingers that it just because they have the thing on the side that makes them outdated. Like it, in the eyes of like a consumer, that they were, not what's the right word? They were not coveted merchandise. So they were able to be $10 or less. But these are hats that in Canada would cost me $60 a hat. So basically it was like buy 2 hats or take a chance that I could get 14. So I took a chance.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, I'm all for that. I've got a really good link to an offshore jersey organization.
I was going to say, you got a jersey guy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I got a jersey guy. One of the guys in our home league tipped me off to that one, so I'm not going to steal that one. But I have ordered several that have turned out absolutely fantastic. So I'm happy with that. If anyone else has these great links, let us know. I do have to finalize my purchase of a Florence Y'alls jersey, which is an indie team in Kentucky. I gotta have one.
Right.
Just says Y'alls. Right. Yeah, I gotta have that one. So
you
I might pick
like
that one up in person though.
You seem like the kind of guy that should have a Savannah Bananas. Do you have a hat?
No, I can't. I won't. No, I won't.
Are you off their bandwagon now? Are they making too much money
on it? I was never really on it. Like I like the idea of somebody rethinking entertainment. I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I just don't. And I like some of the fun rules. Like it seems like something that I would play with a case of beer with my buddies in an open field. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just not that into the entertainment side of it myself, but I could see like taking the kids and, that I would do. I would never be like, I need to go. I need to have that apparel. I do like the banana hat though. There is the banana hat I may have at some point just to say I have it, but we'll see.
Well, you also have a fantasy team that you named Savannah Bananas. So,
I mean, it's just fun.
Right.
That's the name itself is more fun than the team.
Okay. All right. I've never watched them. I've only watched clips, and I know they've got some like Instagram dude who played college baseball and then was doing videos about eating food at all the MLB stadiums who they signed last year. And I watched his kind of road to becoming a member of the team, and he talked about how great it was. And Johnny Damon played a little bit with them this year. So, I know they're like a fun thing, baseball is trying to be fun.
Yeah.
And the Savannah Bananas actually are fun, but it's, Roto Ronnie would hate him, right? He just
100%.
Like he would be the guy who stands up and yells, "Go Party Animals," which is the team they always play against. Boo Bananas.
Yeah, no, Ronnie's the guy that would run on the field to ruin the game. Like 100%. Like he just out there like dragging a plow behind him, tearing up the field.
Oh, see, I thought he'd run on with a Stroman jersey and then light it on fire.
Yeah, maybe. But he might do that in Chicago, so who can't rule
Oh,
that
that's
out.
true. Okay, well, let's get to the last minor league guy worthy of mention this week. We'll dive into this a little bit more once we get into May and we get 100 plus at bats under their belts. These fellas, Heston Kierstad, who's somebody we talked a lot about this offseason. He's at AA, not AAA. Everybody note that. Only 35 at bats into a season, though, Ty. 5 home runs, 314 average. Heston Kierstad, I reversed that one, is off to the races. And,
Yeah.
If you were out there, if you're thinking about it, if there's a name and a trade that you're looking to, make, that would be a pretty smart one because Baltimore is bringing their boys up now. And he's
This is
amongst
my
that group.
favorite acquisition I made this offseason. I sent out Mackenzie Gore and I got Kierstad and Kyle Manzardo back. Absolute highway robbery, in my opinion. My team in that league is garbage, as you know.
Is that your Bananas team?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I am built for the future. I've got some absolute studs coming. So we'll see. We got probably one more year of pain. I finally got a good guy in Jeffrey Springs on my team. Somebody that's actually a really good baseball player, and he got hurt. So I think I have 9 guys on the IR in that league. So on an already bad team, the mediocre guys I do have are all injured.
Well, that was the league that I chose to take Jose Quintana, thinking, brighter days ahead. Instead of Zach Neto in the first round, we do a universal draft in that league. And yeah, I live my life in a state of regret. Jose Siri is one of my outfielders in that league, which, he's hurt, but I'm just trying to check. Oh, I can compete with you, Ty. I've got 2. I got Shane Bass, so 3, 4, Bubik 5, Lynch 6, Overton 7, Quintana 8, and Rangers 4. I got 9 guys on my IL in that league too. Wow, that is shameful.
I just counted. I got 11.
All right, I bow down before you. I also have Matty Theus as a backup catcher in that league, which for anybody who knows anything about Matty Theus, he once upon a time was possibly going to be something with the Angels, and he has since converted from first base to catcher. And right now this year, 11 at bats in, he's got 1 hit. No hits. My apologies. 1 run. And yeah, some things are going very poorly for those types of dudes like that, but then we like to hang on to in those deep dynasty leagues of ours. Those are where the Christian Arroyos, come back to give you dynasty value if you don't drop them. But anyway, Ty, so that's it. We're what, 2+ weeks in. We've got Brett Batty, who's up now. That's an exciting one. A
guy to go store, Robbie. He's injured right now. He's just coming back. Encarnacion Strand in Cincinnati. Go buy him. That guy is going to be a fantasy asset. Go get him now.
All right.
Why are you still here?
Hear that? You hear that?
Yeah.
All right.
Go get him.
End the podcast so then people can go get them.
They should be gone already. If you're still here, you're not listening. It's a great spot to leave it. It's been Tyler Robb here on Dingers.